segment is sponsored by Thinking Man Tavern, a cozy Decatur neighborhood pub. Grab a tasty beverage from a wide variety of selections and a plate of something delicious from the menu. To go, check out Thinking Man Tavern.
So welcome to a very special Transfer Daily. An original 5-stripe has been picked by Charlotte FC in the expansion draft. And Anton Walkes is the man that is unfortunately out. He is the second pick in the 2021 expansion draft. And much to Marc's chagrin, yeah, it is definitely quite perplexing. But what Atlanta United does get is $50,000 in GAM. And yeah, it frees up an international slot. But what it might really, I think, remove from the squad is that little bit of leadership that Anton Walkes did provide, and also a starter in the league. I mean, it's something that is quite perplexing, but yeah, can you make sense of it, Marc?
Absolutely not. And yeah, you know, like just when you were I was thinking as you were saying, you know, it's breaking news that Anton Walkes is picked, but honestly, like, I don't even think that was the breaking news. The breaking news to me was when he was not protected yesterday, when we found that out yesterday. I mean, like, and I just don't understand, like, for the reason that you said, especially, he's a starting center back in MLS, and an above average one. Like, you look across the league, first of all, there's really not that many good defenders. And, you know what I mean? And, you know, to have someone who so consistent, not on super high wages. I have Atl United's wages in front of me. He comes in at $250,000, which, yes, you know, I would say puts him about middle of the pack, maybe a little bit above that, but fully deserves considering that he was a consistent starter. And then you look across the back line. You know, I think Franco ended the season on a good note. Miles Robinson had a great year, but what's next for Miles? You know, like, is Atlanta... I'm very curious to see what the plan is for Miles. Whether they try to keep him another year, whether they try to make him, like, the face of the franchise, or what? Because, I mean, to me, like, if Miles wants to go to Europe, and maybe he doesn't, maybe he's happy in Atlanta, maybe he's happy being the star of MLS, and I think that's perfectly fine, by the way. But, you know, if Miles does want to go to Europe, now has to be the time. So, and then...
But one would argue it's this, you know, that George Campbell is probably given a pretty big opportunity here to be that probably third center back. And if Miles Robinson is sold, well then, you know, he would be given a really massive opportunity to be a starting center back in MLS. And it's also this too, though. Yeah, you know, you have Alex DeJohn, you have other guys that, in terms of depth, but yeah, for me, and that's the best point here is that when Walkes was not protected over the likes of, say, Josetu, that's the big one for me, is that Josetu on his wages, it just doesn't make sense, right? It just, in terms of how packed that midfield is, yes, he was a starter at the end of the season, but, I mean, you know, he's a guy that, unfortunately, doesn't provide a ton of other statistical value in terms of, you know, assists or goals. And, you know, so you have a guy that I think is super versatile in Anton Walkes, you know, that essentially is, you know, picked for pennies. I mean, you know, for him, I think I mean, somewhere in the value of probably about 200 maybe in terms of GAM that he could have been sold for, and I think it's just opportunity lost. If he's surplus to requirements, okay, no big deal. Yeah, you trade him for value, you keep him, and you know, protect him from the expansion draft. And then, yeah, like I mentioned when we did our pod, that I would have not protected Brad Guzan. I mean, yes, he is the team captain, but it is something that, you know, you pretty much dare Charlotte FC to pick up that salary, you know? And for a 37 going on 38-year-old, you dare them to do it. And if so, okay, yeah, we don't have a goalkeeper, but I mean, at that point, I think you get a lot of value, from, I think, being able to have other saleable assets, and one of those saleable assets has now been picked second in the expansion draft. But yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on, the center back core going forward? I mean, is it enough? Are we fine? Or is this? I mean, this is a guy that was an original five stripe, and definitely a guy that's I think held the team together through the tough times early on this season. Wore the captain's armband, a big presence in the locker room, and I think a fan favorite for a lot of people. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
Shoot, man, I don't even know if I can add anything to those sort of descriptions of Anton Walkes. I think all of that is spot on, and roster building is so tricky in MLS, right? Like when you have somebody who's good on not too high a salary, like that's such a valuable asset. So yeah, to just let him go in the expansion draft is crazy to me. In terms of the defensive core, the center back core, I mean, again, it depends on like what happens with Miles. I think I think Campbell has shown pretty I think he has the talent, and I think he can be very good. And, I was kind of thinking about this recently, like you compare his trajectory to Miles Robinson. Well, he's coming through the academy. Miles Robinson, of course, went through college, went through the draft, and so on. So, in a way, like Campbell, I think has a little bit of a leg up in the early stages of his career. So I mean, like I like Campbell. I think he deserves more playing time, and I can't wait to see what he can do. But to me, like having Walkes there would have been so valuable for his development, his continuing development, and it just, I don't know, man. I mean, like Charlotte again, like Charlotte's an Eastern Conference rival, or going to be, and you just help them improve. Like when Nashville came into the league, they made the big move for Walker Zimmerman, right? And a lot of people, myself included, questioned it, spending that much game on a center back or whatever. Look at Nashville now, and look at LAFC now. Look at look at how difficult it was for us to replace Leandro Gonzalez Perez. And you're gonna essentially put yourself in that situation again, like you're betting on yourself. This is my thing. This is, I think, where it really gets me. It's like, I'm not betting on Bocanegra. I'm so far past that. Like I cannot say enough how big a mistake I think it was to give him a 4-year extension, even if you decide to keep him. What has he done to deserve another 4 years? When wasn't that long ago that his seat should have been warm? And that's what worries me. It's like, was his job actually ever in danger? Was he always just going to be here for the long term no matter what he does? Because he had a hand in building the championship team? Like, Atlanta United outspends the rest of the league. It's not difficult to acquire players. This nonsense about he went and got Aruju and, he went and got Pinedo and so on. That's partly him correcting his own mistakes. Like, let's be honest about that. Yeah. And he has the capital to do it because the owner of Atlanta United will outspend pretty much every other MLS owner. So, I mean, like, what are we giving Bocanegra credit for? That's what I'm confused about.
And I think that's the thing that needs to be pretty held accountable is what exactly has what does he get credit for, and then what does he also get the blame for? And so in this sense, you brought in Alan Franco as a DP, and then you have like stuff like this where you spend considerable resources when you had a guy that, yes, like I've been saying, saleable assets that you let go for pennies. I mean, it's something that there's not going to be a lot of people that will forgive him if Anton Walkes continues to come good at Charlotte FC. And it's that, you will be, because as not seriously, as we really don't take Charlotte FC at the moment. I mean, it's really just their fans have been trying to, I think, maybe make some noise, but really at the end of the day, they're pretty much minnows, trying to kind of poke the shark, but and the shark being us. And so, it is that, like, at the end of the day, they're making some shrewd moves, and meanwhile we're not. And this is the most annoying part of it, is that you can't just because it's exactly that what we talked about on the podcast is like, yeah, you don't, in terms of leaving guys that they would pretty much pick. I mean, it's like, it's another guy as well. I didn't say this on the podcast, but I'm saying this now. It's a guy that has experience on an expansion side, and that's only going to help them too. So, like, we obviously want them to be more in the vein of FC Cincy, an Austin FC, but yeah, these type of moves, letting them just grab, a starter from us on the cheap is very, very damning. But any final parting thoughts?
Yeah, when we first brought Walkes back at the beginning of 2020, I thought, okay, like, that's a cool move. I wasn't expecting much. It's like, all right, solid depth piece. We're probably not paying a super high salary. And he was decent in 2020, and then, like, even at the beginning of 2021, it's like, okay, well, we're bringing in a DP defender. Is Walkes really going to hold his spot, or is he just a placeholder? But to me, like, he proved himself. And I love seeing players that you don't expect, right, really exceeding expectations. And so, yeah, like, you bring back a guy on a reasonable salary to be a depth piece, and he ends up being a starter for you. That's, like, not just MLS. I mean, like, that's a key part of roster building, period, in sports. Like, every team, in every league, in every level is trying to do that. Yes, you spend big on stars. You're trying to put together a balanced roster. You need other guys to fill it out. And, like, that's it's just confusing to me. I just don't get what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think it's maybe something like this too, where Mateus Asetu, we kind of use some resources to bring him in, a Braguzan, in terms of maybe the intangibles and maybe how it looks to Braguzan and around the league, maybe not the best optics, and so leaving an Anton Walkes where you brought him in on the cheap. Oh, it's like, okay, well, you just throw up your hands. I guess it wasn't really that big of a deal. We didn't lose that much in terms of, actual resources that we used or whatever. But, yeah, it's an opportunity cost, and I think we've lost big on an opportunity cost here. Yes, big miss in the locker room for sure going forward, but I think the biggest thing is how much we could have gained by keeping him protected and selling him for more. But guys, what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. This is a kind of special and different Transfer Daily. Let us know what you thought about it. But stay tuned all off season for more. And yes, for Marc, for me, we will see you in the next video. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.